So, it's happened again. A couple of weeks ago, I turned Secrets of the Mimic characters into my singing monsters. Once I put out that video, you guys heavily requested that I made a part 2, but with more characters. And so I did that. And what was I greeted to in the comments of that video? Wow, so many comments. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, let's make a final part 3. So hey, how's it going? Nova here, and welcome to the final episode of the Turning Secrets of the Mimic characters into My Singing Monsters series. The series where I take characters from the Secrets of the Mimic game and turn them into My Singing Monsters. Not only have we got 4 monsters being made in this video, but I also had help from 4 other creators. One of which you'll be hearing from later on in the video as they helped compose and design one of the monsters. I've worked hard to make sure that this is the final part in this series, by making sure that the song sounds complete, choosing characters that I feel deserve these final spots, and just with how many people helped out with this video. If you haven't seen the previous episodes, I'd recommend going back and checking them out, as we made both the island and the current cast of 7 monsters in those 2 videos. And before we start, go grab some snacks and drinks and enjoy this final episode. While some people go and do that, consider leaving a like on this video if you enjoy it, as that really goes a long way to help. Subscribe if you don't want to miss more videos, and check out my Patreon in the description below if you wish to show further support. Patrons get to see these videos up to a week early, as well as ad-free. Got your snacks? Then let's get right into this. And for the last time, there will be spoilers for Secrets of the Mimic. Enjoy the video. Since we've covered the main characters in the story path of the game, we'll be heading all the way back to the Welcome Show to not only choose our first character, but to choose the first 2 characters that will be turning into monsters in this video, being Monty and Hippo. Let's start off with Monty from the Jug Band. In the Welcome Show, Hippo and Monty take on more of a classic animatronic look, which we're more familiar with in the real world. So I'll be keeping them both as animatronic robots. I also think band animatronics fit very well with My Singing Monsters, as they are heavily focused around music. I'm actually quite surprised that we haven't seen any musical animatronic monsters yet. One thing we learn in Secrets of the Mimic is that many characters that we are familiar with in FNAF actually date back to being Edwin's own creations, whether they're Edwin original characters or a collaborative partnership with Edwin. We have Edwin and Fiona to thank for a lot of the designs and characters that we know and love. Going back to the drawing, it was actually quite fun trying to figure out how to make the animatronic shells work. You know, things like the elbow joints and how they fit into the shell pieces. These parts and details really bring out the animatronicness in these 2 monsters. When it came to rendering Monty, I decided it would be best to keep them simplistic, more in line with a lot of the more modern MSM monsters, as they're a large animatronic. They'll be shiny and smooth with scale patterns occasionally. I also stuck very closely to the Monty and Hippo designs, not only from the Welcome Show, but also from the large wooden cutouts. Just with a much more FNAF-inspired animatronic look to them, with the segmented limbs. Chuck on some red cheeks and this Monty might pass off as a toy animatronic. The modern glam rock Monty that we all know rocks a red mohawk. And to embrace these details in modern Monty designs, I've given the monster version of Monty these huge red spikes on top of their head, roughly in the place that a mohawk would be. Next up are the body and arms. Not too much to say here, but you may notice some changes in lighting around this area. That's because I realised that the banjo and arms are going to be one of the main focuses of the monster, so darkening the body will help these features stick out and be more eye-catching. I made the legs blue to represent the clothing that the Jug Band Monty wears, and I just feel that keeping this design green and yellow would have been boring to look at. Some variation can be nice. Meet Hunter, the animatronic alligator monster. You might think that the name Hunter seems like a bit of a departure from the name Monty, and you're right. This name not only refers to alligators' hunting abilities, but is primarily in honour to the dearly missed crocodile hunter, Steve Irwin, who strongly pushed for wildlife conservation and inspired millions of people around the world. I'll leave a link to the Australia Zoo website in the description, where you can learn more about wildlife conservation and the impact the Irwin family has had. Going back to the monster, there's not too much to say about them as they are quite literally just an animatronic. They move and play their instrument just like an ordinary animatronic would. They are equipped with their trusty banjo, however, and make a mighty fine duet with Hippo. This monster would be 3x3 in size. A special thank you to Slimer, who wanted to animate this monster, and I must say did an excellent job doing so, capturing the stiff and clunky animatronic movements. Slimer is one of the 4 creators to help out with this video, and please check them all out in the description after this video. Here is Hunter in action. Onto Hippo, the other jug band animatronic. I'll keep this section shorter than Monty's as I decided to have them both be very similar animatronic monsters, as they're both extremely similar in game. Just like with Monty, the monster form of Hippo is heavily based on their welcome show costume, as well as the cutouts of Hippo. Laying out the sprites was pretty much the exact same as Monty, although I didn't copy over any sprites from Monty. That would have probably saved some time now that I think about it. Let's fast forward through this. Meet Hippotura, the animatronic hippopotamus monster. Their name originates from Scordatura and hippopotamus, and they play the viola. They are a part of a jug band with Hunter, but this so-called jug band lacks any sign of a jug instrument. This robotic monster is 3x3 in size and was also animated by a special guest. Thank you Tides for also offering to animate this monster. Tides also did an amazing job at portraying animatronic movements in these animations. So let's take a look. What a fun juggless jug band these two monsters make. Before I hand you over to our third guest who concepted and composed this next monster, I'd like to thank my patrons who support me and the channel. You guys make these videos more possible and I appreciate all of you. Let's see what JakeTheDrake does for this next monster.
What's going on guys, JakeTheDrake back again, hope you're fantastic today, and yeah, I will be concepting this next monster from Secret of the Mimic, Mr. and Mrs. Helpful, into a singing monster. Let's do this. Okay, so my original idea for this was to do a Funtime Freddy but reverse, because the helpful animatronics do look a lot like Bon Bon does on Funtime Freddy, and there isn't really any Bonnie representation in Secret of the Mimic compared to the other three, which have like that Foxy puppet, the helpfuls for Freddy, and then Chica is just like one of the guys in the game. So having Bonnie represented here would be really fun, I thought. But then you saw my original concept there, it looked a bit too much like Funtime Freddy, so then I'm pulling a lot of inspiration from Glitch Trap, because the original Glitch Trap costume looks a lot like something Edwin would make in his costume manner. So having that be represented here, I don't know why I keep on saying represented, that's definitely not a word. Anyway, yeah, you can see here, this is the Glitch Trap sort of looking guy here with a bow tie. My original idea was for him to be popping out the ground, because he doesn't have any legs yet, but you can see me here trying to draw some legs, because that looked a bit weird. So I'm drawing legs, they look very off there, but having little toes like that, like Blabbit, I thought was a cool idea, because Blabbit is like a rabbit, and then so is Bonnie. So you put 2 and 2 together, you get this. So he's got little toes sticking out the bottom there. He has a big belly, that kind of thing. And then his hands, yeah, you can see there, they're a bit too, like, I don't know, they're a bit weird. So then I've drawn them again like that. And then the idea for the helpful guys was to have them look a bit more robotic than they normally do, having them look a bit more like Funtime Freddy does. Like having his, he doesn't really have any clothes on, because the original helpful guys have like a suit and tie, that kind of thing. I just sort of made them look like more classic FNAF animatronics. You can see for the colouring here, I've gone for like a deep blue, which I change a bit later to be a bit more purple, to match the colour scheme of the helpful animatronics. That's about it for this concept. Very happy with how this turned out. It really represents the helpfuls, as well as getting some Bonnie representation inside of this thing. I'll pass this back on to Nova so we can render it, animate it, do all that good stuff, and I will see you guys next time.
Thank you, Jake, for both the sound and this very interesting concept. Now it's up to me to render this animatronic and animate them, and I'll try not to repeat anything that Jake just said. To start with, I simply redrew Jake's concept to account for things like animation and perspective. Alright, now we're ready to render. This monster, out of all of the monsters I've made in this series, easily took the longest to lay out the sprites for. There were so many sprites to make and separate, since there's technically 3 characters in this design. The rendering, however, was a lot easier, as we can copy one hand over to the other, and make the appropriate changes needed. For all of the comments that were asking for Edwin and Fiona to become monsters in this series, whether they were joking or not, it looks like your wishes came true. I really like Jake's idea of representing Bonnie in this series, as Bonnie really isn't a part of Secret of the Mimic. This monster, however, is still able to fit in line with the game, as it has both of the helpful characters as hand puppets. Onto the helpful hand puppet. It was interesting moving on from something as big as Bonnie to something as small as helpful. Outlines now take up more space, and there isn't much room for shading or detail. This added a fun challenge to the helpful puppets. And like I said before, we can copy helpful over to the other side, and make the appropriate changes needed to make it better represent Fiona. Meet Help Hair, the puppeteering bunny monster, named by JakeTheDrake. This crazy hair created some helpful hand puppets which keep it company when the Showmon band aren't playing any songs. It's not clear if the puppets are alive or not, but keep an eye on Help Hair's mouth, as it does seem to twitch when the puppets are supposedly talking. I guess we do know the answer to that question. This monster is 3x3 in size, and once again, thank you to Drake the Jake?
Thank you to
JakeTheDrake for making the sounds for this monster and concepting them. Let's check out how they sound.
Welcome to the show, where monsters and robots alike perform. We have a song for you, specially made, so get ready. A 1, 2, 3, 4. Bye bye up, bye 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 bow. Bye bye up, bye 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 bow.
And now we're on to the final monster of the series. In part 2, I turned the Mimic itself into a monster, as I once again thought that would be the final episode. So who exactly do we make now to end the series? I've decided that the Protomimics would be a good choice. Towards the end of the Parachute.exe ending of the game, the factory starts to burn down, and dozens of these Protomimics run around causing chaos and havoc. And since they're called Protomimics, that implies some sort of connection to the Mimic, so let's turn them into the final monster. This monster probably looks the most similar to their game counterpart, as there's not really much you can do with walking piles of trash. But I think that's okay, as we get to see these funky proto-mimic designs in an MSM-like art style. I did try to add some fun monstrous details to these guys though, like these paper horns taped onto the plate. As you can see, I wanted to have 2 proto-mimics in this design, as one alone wouldn't really represent all of the different types of proto-mimics that we see. There are so many combinations of parts, paper plate proto-mimics, animatronic leg head proto-mimics, box mimic, There's so many combinations that I feel confident trying to represent all of these in just 2. And hey, once you've seen the final result of this monster, let me know if you prefer the more robotic Protomimic or the paper plate Protomimic. Since this monster has very similar animatronic shell parts as Monty and Hippo from earlier, I'll be drawing the Protomimics in a very similar art style. I'm very happy with how the paper plate turned out, not only design wise but animation wise too. The plate's Protomimic will be playing on this trash can, whilst the other Protomimic stomps their metal feet. Rendering this headpiece took some time, but I think I got it looking good in the end. I even added these patches all over the head and the area under the eye, and I really like how it looks. Meet the Recyclables. Since this monster is technically 2, they share the collective name the Recyclables. But I want to challenge you guys to give both of these Recyclables a name each in the comments. Choose a name for the paper plates Recyclable, and a name for this more robotic Recyclable. This little band of scrap and junk usually force their way into the songs the Showmon crew are singing. It's unknown what these strange trash robots are supposed to be, or why they're even alive, but maybe they used to be whole once. Maybe there's other Recyclables running around. They are also 3x3 in size. A special thanks to our 4th guest this video, as Raw Zebra composed the wonderful clangs and bashes of the Recyclables. Let's check out how the final monster sounds. And since this is the final part of the series, enjoy the final version of the Warden's Singing Manor song.
Welcome to the show, where monsters and robots alike perform. We have a song for you, specially made, so get ready. A 1, 2, 3, 4.
And those are the final Secrets of the Mimic characters that I will be turning into my singing monsters. This doesn't mean that I can't go back and visit other FNAF games to turn into my singing monsters, but it does mean there won't be a part 4. I already see the part 4 comments down there. Do let me know which Showmon monster in this entire series is your favourite. And thank you so much for all of your support. Anyway, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.